Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. Have you thought about commercials that you can remember as a kid? Even to this day, they had such a catchy phrase to them. Or maybe you remember, because when I was growing up, there wasn't any shopping malls or strip malls. The strip malls are slowly coming in, but they weren't real big. But I can remember a few stores that we always hit when we had to go clothes shopping and that. But then malls became the big deal to have. And I remember me and the wife going to them window shopping and then eating in the food court. You know, it was all in one place, convenience. But those are slowly dying out. And some of the commercials I remember as a kid one was for McDonald's, and they said you always get change back from your order. And I always, as I got older, I kind of chuckled. Well, I thought, well, yeah, if the order's $2.50 and you give them $3, you're going to get change back. But I understand the premise of their commercial. It was trying to say that, you get good food and it's cheap. And as I think back, I think their hamburgers and that tasted way better then than they do now. But that's a personal preference there, choice or whatever. But everything changes from day to day. Even, we can look at road construction and see how there's been a number of roads I've driven on over the years that were 2-lane, and now they're 4-lane. And I look back to when I started driving, I think, man, I've been out here a while. But then some of my friends that are still driving, that's been out here, 10, 15 years longer than I have, they've really seen the change in the roads and such. And every now and then we'll talk about that. If I'm wanting to go someplace and I'll call and they'll say, well, you can do this and this and this. And, it's great to have that ability to tap into somebody for information that can remember little shortcuts and that. And I've had people call and ask me how to get from A to B. And I said, well, you can go this way, but this way's a little quicker, but you got to go through some little towns. It's whichever way you want to go. We can look and see how churches changed. I remember as a kid, we didn't have very much audio set, microphones and that stuff. And now some of the churches I visited over the years, it's like going to a rock concert. They got colored lights and the strobe lights, and the music's, don't mind loud music, but it's way too loud. And it's almost like they've gotten away from the basics to try and stay up with what's current. And I think a lot of times, if we think and look back at the basics, it never changes. The message is simple and directly on point, and we're not continually trying to keep up with what the Joneses are doing. But that's another personal preference. At our church, we have electric guitars and drums and stuff. They've kind of put the drums away. There is a number of people that didn't care for the drums, said they were too loud. And then there was just as many that wanted the drums there, especially the musicians for the beat. It's a compromise in that. And one of the elders at the church that I attend, I remember him saying, questioning, something was brought up, and I remember him questioning is, how will this affect the body being the body of believers, and how will this affect worship? And we kind of need to think about that from time to time when we're studying our Bible or when we're attending a church. How far away from the basics of just preaching the message straight out of the Bible have we gotten? Now, I'm not knocking any church. I'm not knocking anybody that does things to, maybe your church has the lights and all that. I'm not knocking any of that. All I'm asking is, are we still doing the basics to get people into the church house? Are we still doing the basics to tell people about Jesus? Or are we trying to use gimmicks? If you were to run into me later today, I feel like I'm just as simple in my conversations as I am this morning putting this message up. There's no That's kind of like what you see is what you get. You know, might be a little bit aggravated later today with traffic and being down here in Florida and heat and humidity, but you know, overall, I think what you see at 3 o'clock this morning is what you see at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Might be a little bit more tired because I've run some miles, but you get what I'm getting at. I always, in my messages, whether it's putting one up in the morning or writing in my devotions and that, I always think of the KISS formula. Keep it simple, stupid. And you can't go wrong. This morning I want to bring out a verse that I think it's right to the point on what I'm talking about this morning. And it's Hebrews the 13th chapter, verse 8. It says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Just think about that. We continually change, like I just talked about this morning. But Jesus doesn't change. He's consistently the same. It's you and I that change. It's you and I that walk away. It's Him waiting for us to come back. It's you and I that have doubt, or doubt in our faith, or doubt in whatever. But it's Jesus that doesn't have doubt. It's Jesus that hasn't changed. And I think sometimes we need to remember that. In sports, a lot of times practice 1 or 2 days of the week, when I was playing sports, baseball and that, all we did was work on the fundamentals, the basics of the game. Because if you have the basics of the game down, then everything else comes easy. And it's the same in our walk in Christ. If we remember that Jesus is the same today, I get that, the same yesterday and today and forever, we don't forget that, then we shouldn't have much trouble remembering that as long as we're doing the basics, He's right there beside us. It's when we stray off to try and something new in that, and we forget about the basics. So as you go through the day today, just think about that. Just think about the basics and how simple life is when we live life as simple as possible.